I saw 70,000. I said, Dad, where did that money come from? And he goes, oh, that's from the rental side. I said, what's rental side? And he goes, oh, the properties we have, it accumulates money. And I was like, but I never see you there. And that account's always full. We're here 7 days a week, morning till night. And that's only got 3,000-4,000. I don't want to be a shopkeeper. That's a penny business. I want to be in the property game. So as I was growing up, I always knew that I wanted to start owning property because I just knew there was big numbers involved. So that's why I got into the property game, and I said, look, I need to get into this property game as soon as possible. If that's good, then yeah, be attracted to good things and be surrounded, be in that environment as soon as you can. So I started saving from my full-time job, as I said, in Barclays. But here's another thing: you should never ever take your eye off the ball. In 6 years in Barclays, it took me 2.5 years to get in the boardroom on 40,000 basic, and I used to take home £70,000. I still got promoted in my job. I was still a manager in McDonald's, so not a little crew member or training squad, and I was still accumulating property in the background. So whatever you are, remember your brand. Be the best you can be, and always make sure you're meeting all your targets and giving your 100% wherever you are, and not taking your eye off the ball because you've got a property in the background. So the first property, people say you can get lucky. I believe it's where, you know, hard work sort of meets, you know, your consistency, and opportunity just presents itself. You could be sat at home and not get that opportunity and whine about it. Oh, nothing happened for me today, but you was in your bed. If I just got out of my bed and I went out to work, I'm going to find an opportunity eventually. So you've got to meet them two things together down the middle. You can't just expect things to happen and fall on your lap. So I was at Barclays. My mortgage advisor was desperate to sell his house. It was around August time. He goes, Sean, I really want to sell this house. I want 170,000 for it. I said, no, I can't even afford that. He goes, yeah, I can do your mortgage for you. You know, you've got the affordability. I said, no, I haven't. I'm not going to do it. And luckily, at that time, the market was different to now. Now you've got 10 people to one house.
What year was this?
We're talking like 2010. So back when I bought my first property, there was only normally one person that had turned up for a viewing. And at this time, this guy couldn't sell his property because it was in Dagenham. It wasn't that much of a favourable area. So I saw this opportunity, and I just waited, and he couldn't find another buyer, and you know, it called my bluff, and he said, I'd reduce it to 140,000 for you.
This podcast is supported by High Castle Estates. We are an award-winning estate agency based in London, focusing on property management, sales and investment. So if you just want to have a chat about property or your property, we'll provide maximum value to you. How much would that property be worth today?
Today is worth about 400,000.
Do you still have it?
Yes, still have it.
So you've made profit on your rent, and you've made a capital appreciation on it?
Capital appreciation, definitely, yeah. I've also done a 6x6 metre extension, so I've made 2 more rooms at the back, and today it's a care home today, you know, so a care home company look after a couple of children, so they actually pay me a premium rent as they've leased it off me for about 5 years.
So now from 21 to 26, at 21 you had one property. Your property portfolio was worth 1 million.
Yes. So that doesn't mean I've got £1 million in the bank account. It just means the properties that I had came up to the value of £1 million. So for example, the one that was worth 140 at the age of 26, that was now worth more, near enough 290. So 150,000 appreciation in that. So if you say that's about 300,000, and then between 2012 to 2014, the property prices here in Stratford also nearly doubled. So properties went from 200 to 400,000. And I always done the BRRR strategy, which was buy, refurb, rent and refinance. And I didn't know it was called that at the time, but all I knew that I wanted to buy the property as cheap as possible. And if it needed some work done, me and the builder were going to work on it. I'd get somebody on a day rate, I'd put the materials in front of him. If the walls were worn out, all I know, it just needed replastering. If it was old wiring, all I knew, it was just a new wire that needed from the socket to the ceiling to the switches. That's all it was. And how do we get that from there to there? We chisel the wall, whack the wires in there, bond it, plaster it, You got new electrics, somebody signs it off. Like, obviously it's a lot harder than that, but that's the logistics of it, you know. And I was able to do a lot of mini renovations for like £7,000-8,000 back then. I used to get day rate workers who'd work about £100 a day, materials, and I used to labour on the weekends and in the evenings wherever I could.
So then, now your property portfolio is worth 10 mil.
Yes.
How did you get from 1 to 10? And was that easier than getting from 140 to 1?
100%. It's a snowball effect. Once you've got a snowball, you're known by the banks, your credit history is improving, you're gaining more experience along the way, and yeah, your cash flow is also building up. You've got 1, 2, 3, 4 incomes. So long as you're paying your rent, you still, at this stage, I was still working in my full-time job and part-time job. And actually the full-time job dropped off and I actually made myself into a builder. And that was a better move for me because rather than earning 4,000 or 5,000 in the bank, I could save £60,000 on a project doing it myself with a builder. So, but I was like, how do I pay myself here? Because I'm paying the builder right now and I'm paying for materials right now. So how do I pay myself? And then I'd be like, okay, so if I buy, this property's worth 250,000. If I buy it for 180,000, I've already 60,000 up, yeah? And then also the market's going up, so it's not going to stay at 250, it's going to go up. So I've bought it about 60, 50, 60, 70,000 under market value. Okay, so then I work with the builder, I'll give him materials, I'll get the project done for 20,000. So it would be at 200,000, so it's still 50,000 under market value, and then the market's also going up. So that's how I'd get paid. So you then go to the bank, they value it at a higher price, and you say, can I have a 75% loan on this? And they pay you that way. So that was where I could pay myself, but I still wouldn't use that money. I still used it to reinvest in the business.
So at what point did you think, okay, that's it, I need to leave my day jobs and just focus on property full time?
So I entered the property markets at age 21. I think it was about 33. I started thinking that I need to really let go of my security. My part-time jobs is the only thing I used to hold on to because I only used to have enough money from my part-time jobs just to survive in terms of I can pay sort of, my mortgage, my car, my fuel, my running expenses. That's all I needed a part-time job for, even though I didn't need it. But I like to have that security, that safety barrier. So, yeah.
Okay, you talk about the growth mindset a lot.
Yeah.
Explain to me, what do you mean by growth mindset? What is the growth mindset?
So there's two types of mindset. There's a fixed mindset and a growth mindset. A fixed mindset is when you just accept whatever's given in front of you. This is a glass of water and that's all I've got and that's all I ever get. A growth mindset is, hey, this water tastes good. How do I get more of it? There must be another way, because it got there in front of me.
Yeah.
It's not accepting what's just put in front of you. It's accepting that whatever I think about, I can achieve it. I can get it. And sometimes we set our goals way too low. We want to be a millionaire. Well, why don't you aim to be a billionaire? What's that phrase they say? If you
for the sky fall on the treetops.
there you go. So it's all about always thinking I can do and how do I do it? These are the two questions. I can do this. So it's the belief. And you have to push it with that motivation to say, how do I get there? Not, that's not for me, that's for rich people. Then that's a poor mindset.
So you give back to the community a lot now. You go to schools, you've just done a podcast at Greenwich Uni as well.
Yes.
How do you talk about the growth mindset to the younger generation?
First of all, you've got to show them the story. They've got to have something that they can relate to. They don't want to see a millionaire being a multi-millionaire because you're already not touching them. I've come from, humble beginnings. I've come from, 5 of us living in a 3-bedroom house and sharing dad's clothes and having home haircuts. I've got pictures that I can show them so they relate to it. So when they see that and they see that I'm not this amazing, big guy is just a normal guy who's worked hard, he's been consistent. He just didn't take that gap year to go on holiday and then lost that momentum.